Once again, welcome to Yumaflix. I'll be showing you the 2019 drama, mystery, and fantasy movie Super Me. Beware of spoilers. Sang-Yu is a poor, lonely screenwriter who has lost both of his parents and has no employment or friends. But his biggest issue is that he hasn't been able to sleep for more than 6 months, because each time he does, a demon invades his dreams and turns them into terrifying nightmares. In his dream tonight, Sang-Yu is in the subway, when the monster appears, takes him by the hair, and kills him by poking his head through the floor's hole. Right after his dream, Sang-Yu wakes up with the intention of writing. However, when his landlord knocks on the door, saying that he has given him some food, Sang-Yu flees through the window, since he lacks the necessary funds for rent. He thinks back on all the specialists he has spoken to on dreams, including psychologists, physicians, scientists, religious adherents, and others, while he strolls through the streets. They all had various beliefs about what dreams do and may represent, but none of them offered anything substantial that might have been of any use to him. He stops at a food cart and orders a crepe without eggs because that is all he can afford, but the crepe vendor surprises him by adding an egg for free. He observes Hua, the girl he has a crush on, working in the cafe across the street as he waits for his food to be finished. Years ago, she was performing with her band when he first met her while out with some friends at a pub. He has been thinking about her ever since because of the beauty of her singing voice. Sang-Yu waits for his crepe to finish cooking before sitting down to eat it when his manager, San-Ji, unexpectedly startles him. Sang-Yu begins to flee, dropping his crepe in the process, but he is too frail to travel very far, and San-Ji ultimately catches up with him. He brings him to a restaurant and forces him to watch him eat while reprimanding him for breaching his contract and failing to submit a script on time. Sang-Yu tries to explain that his sleeplessness prevents him from being able to focus and write, but San-Ji won't hear of it and insists that the screenplay be finished in 10 days. Sang-Yu then discovers that his landlord has finally evicted him when he goes to his flat to find it locked and all of his belongings in the hallway. He to a cafe to see if he can write there, but because he is too hungry to think, he ends up nodding off. The demon suddenly comes from behind him, wraps Sang-Yu in chains, and begins thrashing his head against the desk. Once more, Sang-Yu realizes his laptop has been taken as he wakes up in the morning immediately following the death of his dream self. Sang-Yu sends San-Ji a message stating that he will commit himself and be reunited with his parents after losing his work tool and beginning to feel unable to distinguish between reality and his dreams. He decides to leap from the roof of the building across from Hua Cafe ERs while she watches him do it. However, the crepe vendor stops him by offering him some free food. The guy joins him on the roof, and as Sang-Yu eats, he converses with him about the many perspectives on death and dreams. He then comes to a straightforward conclusion: Sang-Yu should remind himself I'm dreaming while he is experiencing these nightmares in order to wake up more quickly. Sang-Yu sits on the roof until dusk, keeping an eye on Hua, after which he sells his cell phone to get money for food. He visits a convenience shop, where he contemplates taking a few items before deciding against them once he realizes he is being observed. He consumes the food outside the shop, where Sang-Yu is startled to see Hua suddenly approach him and express concern for him. Sang-Yu realizes right away that this is unreal. The demon, Hua, starts pressing him against the glass, giving the store clerk the impression that Sang-Yu is having a panic attack. Sang-Yu is picked up by the demon, who then tosses him through the window after stabbing him with his sword. Sang-Yu keeps his grip on the sword while thinking back to the crepe man's words and reminding himself that he is dreaming, which enables him to wake up in the middle of being tossed. While flying through the broken glass in real life, he also discovers the demon's sword in his hands, despite not being wounded. Before the ambulance can come, he flees and spends the rest of the night in the park, inspecting the sword to be sure he isn't dreaming once more. He goes to the flea market in the morning to sell it, and as he watches all the enthusiastic purchasers, he realizes that he has something priceless in his possession. Instead, he makes the decision to visit a pawn shop, where they give him the true worth of the sword, which is $20,000 instead. Sang-Yu doesn't waste any time and immediately begins to spend it. He buys a new computer, dines at a beautiful restaurant, and stays at a posh hotel. He takes some sleeping tablets as it becomes dark and waits for his typical dream to start. He leaves his room to explore the corridor, seizing a vase and exclaiming, "I'm dreaming." But nothing occurs. This dream is also occurring in the hotel. He makes the decision to venture a bit further, at which point the demon materializes and pursues him with a massive gold axe. After taking a number of blows from the demon's sword and being thrown around, Sang-yu manages to seize the axe and declares, "I'm dreaming." He awakens once more with the weapon in his hands and no obvious wounds. The same pawn shop is used to sell the axe, and the proceeds are used right away to buy new clothing, a car, and a night out drinking with several women at a bar. But when he gets back to his hotel room, he refuses to let them in and instead just offers them some cash for a cab before retiring to bed. Tonight he's attempting a new technique. Before going to sleep, he looks at images of a significant museum on a book. The technique is successful because the dream takes place in the identical location he saw in the pictures. Before settling down to wait for the demon to appear, Sang-yu surveys the area and takes in all the antiques. This time, the demon comes bearing a gun, which goes against his purpose. Sang-yu starts to flee while escaping the shots, but the demon soon catches up to him and kills him. Sang-yu awakens in his hotel room, but because he was unable to collect anything, he decides to take a sleeping medication rather than leave the task incomplete. He starts sprinting once again in the dream and, after avoiding a few gunshots with a particularly impressive jump, he snatches 2 antiques before exclaiming, "I'm dreaming," and waking up. This time, Sang-yu brings the valuables to established antique merchants who do business with wealthy collectors. He receives 2 million for them as well as some inquiries concerning his methodology, but happily, he avoids all of them. An irate San-ji approaches him as he exits the store because she believed he had died. Sang-yu sends him back the money he had paid him for the script and extends an invitation to dinner at a posh restaurant while informing him that he no longer writes. He finally makes it into Hua Cafe ERs the next day, and after getting a latte, he asks her whether she knows him. However, she doesn't. He further inquires as to why she is selling the cafe, to which she replies that she has no customers and that the business just adds to her debt. Later that evening, while eating dinner with San-ji, who is interested in learning the key to his success, Sang-yu becomes intoxicated. San-ji drives Sang-yu back to his hotel room, puts him to sleep, and then pretends to leave before returning and inspecting Sang wallet and checkbook. He is astonished when Sang-yu awakens with gold chains, and now that he is aware of the secret, he asks his buddy to let him assist him in his new venture, which Sang-yu mulls over for a time. The next day, Sang-yu buys Hua Cafe ERs and tells her he still wants her to manage it. They can split the profits, but he'll be responsible for making up any losses, he says. She extends an invitation to dinner as a token of her gratitude, where they talk about their new joint venture and Hua expresses her concerns that Sang-yu may be interested in more than simply financial gain. After that, Sang-yu often has dream adventures as San-ji guards his sleeping body. One of his dreams involves stealing a bank, in which he demonstrates the level of control he is growing to have over his abilities. He is beginning to fight the demon back and can manipulate items with his thoughts. Additionally, he starts bringing back bigger items, like a red automobile. Later, Hua Cafe ERs is packed with patrons as a result of Sang-yu sending San-ji to bribe passers-by to visit. In addition, he handed the crepe vendor a bag of cash as a token of appreciation for sharing free meals with him. After the store shuts, Sang-yu goes for a stroll with Hua, who deduces that he is a playwright based on only a handful of his statements. Every day after work, Sang-yu starts to walk her home. One night, he lets her drive the red automobile from his dream, which he claims is for her. She assumes he must be a highly well-known screenwriter given his good wealth. Sang-yu recalls the day he first met her as she drives through the night. He spotted her weeping after a dispute with her ex after her act, and he then followed her to the movies a few times. Hua agrees when Sang-yu offers to take her to the cinema in the present, but she also wonders when they'll get to see a movie he wrote. Sang-yu produces a script, for genuine, and sends it to San-ji to read while he sleeps, because he doesn't want to be discovered in his deception. He wakes up fairly fast since Hua is continuously in his thoughts, and he dreams about being in bed with several different versions of her. Sang Ji is sobbing at how well scripted it is. The first step in their strategy is selling the script to a production company and promising to pay for the greatest actors and a successful outcome. They even organize a special dinner event in his honor, and he invites Hua as a guest. Even a unique presentation about his career is made up, in which it is said that he authored several blockbuster movies but chose not to claim credit for them in order to travel and see the globe. A few days later, Sang Yu finds something quite strange in a dream. A monk's body is there, meditating, and as he reaches for his belt, his hand disintegrates. However, he doesn't give up, so after getting his hand back, he tries again. The guy approaches to touch the monk's chest with two smoldering fingers, as he takes off the belt, but Sang Yu doesn't appear very concerned. The typical demon is absent, and both the riches and the monk vanish. One evening, Sang Yu brings Hua to the roof, where he nearly kills himself and performs a unique fireworks display for her. She worries whether he'll ever go as suddenly as he appeared, and he assures her that he won't. They then proceed to her residence, where Sang Yu performs a potential confession as she takes a shower. He suddenly feels something hit him in the chest, and when he looks in the mirror, he notices two flaming black lines on his flesh. As a result, he is forced to leave. He arrives home and avoids the party Sang Ji is having with a group of women, going straight to bed instead. Sang Yu informs Sang Ji that it is not essential since he will be sleeping alone this time as he is getting ready to gather tonight's prize. He appears in a towering, deserted building in the dream, with a shadowy man standing guard on the balcony. As Sang Yu approaches, he realizes it is a decaying version of his elder self. His shoulder has a fresh scar when he wakes up, and as the hour passes, additional scars appear, each one corresponding to a location where the demon had injured him in earlier nightmares. The next morning, he visits the crepe vendor to see if he has any further advice, but just as he is about to get there, a van pulls up next to him and abducts him. Sang Yu finds himself in an abandoned building surrounded by a group of criminals, led by Chang Ji, when they eventually take the bag from his head. After settling on 10 million, Sang Yu contacts Sang Ji and asks him to provide the funds. Sang Yu first offers to pay whatever they request. The money and Sang Ji, who Chang Ji employs to bargain, are taken when he comes by Chang Men. He's without any other option. Sang Yu drags the entire crew and a groggy Sang Ji back to his flat, where he shows them his secret chamber filled with all of his treasures. As Chang Ji attempts to get him to reveal how he acquired all of these priceless objects, Hua shows up at the building to visit him. Sang Yu ditches her. Thereafter the receptionist announces her presence over the intercom in an effort to persuade her to leave for her own safety. One of the thugs catches her as soon as she exits the elevator and brings her to the same location, where they are detaining Sang Yu. Another of his men objects to Chang, taunting Ji's of her by pointing out that Sang Yu has been lying in an effort to get under her skin since he believes they were just there to rob them of some cash. While Chang He shoots the man he beat up, the three of them flee, although it's difficult to get far with Sang Yu unable to walk due to his injuries. Sang Ji gives himself up by sticking behind and distracting the thugs, while Sang Yu and Hua escape when the guys catch up to them on the stairs and one of them tries to stab Sang Yu again. Sang Ji is killed by two skilled guys since one untrained man is unable to defeat them. Sang Yu and Hua are taken hostage upstairs by one of the goons, who beats them and throws them around despite Sang Yu stabbing him in the back with a knife. The two of them collapse, and Sang Yu wakes up covered in a black material that vanishes as soon as he moves among some weird ruins. After that, he proceeds to a location with a massive crystal wall, which he begins bashing while repeatedly repeating "I'm dreaming," until he faints from blood loss. Sang Yu finds himself turning into a demon all of a sudden as his body begins to change. He imagines himself as the demon in various conversations that have already occurred, but with a twist. Instead of sitting there and listening, in these versions he imagines, he hits his landlord and Sang Ji for not being nicer to him, and he begins striking the crystal wall with the machete that appears in his hand. In Sang Living Yu's room, where Sang Body Yu is also waking up, the monster emerges as the wall finally cracks. The demon murders all the thugs without hesitation, occasionally even producing a bizarre gun. Sang Yu passes out once more, and when he awakens, he is back in the nighttime vicinity of the convenience shop. When Hua comes across him, she recognizes him from the performance and is moved by her compassion. She invites him to her home so she can offer him some proper meals. She tells him she's read one of his stories in a magazine and believes it was really good, adding that he only needs a little luck to make a breakthrough while he eats some noodle soup. Later, when they are working at the cafe, Hua presents Sang Yu with a gift, a brand new laptop for him to use for his writing. As he can't create a script on demand and just wants to write what he wants to write, Sang Yu meets San Ji at a restaurant later on to return his money. San Ji not only declines the money, but he also gives him extra since he was able to sell one of Sang Old Yu's screenplays. Many days later, Sang Yu, who is now pleased with his existence, visits the crepe vendor to place an order. The vendor sees an opportunity to return Sang money Yu's and displays a scar on his stomach since he once possessed the same power and has since learned that simple life is preferable. The ruins from Sang previous Yu's dream materialize behind him as he continues to tell his tale, and it is revealed that the new demon responsible for the thug's deaths has been stalking him since he returned to the convenience store. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification button, so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.